So today we are going to discuss how to focus on a healthy eating pattern, and today's presentation is brought to you by the Healthy Lifestyle Center. So I'll start off by introducing myself. My name is Mallory Craig. I am a nutrition and dietetics major, and I'm a nutrition graduate assistant for the Healthy Lifestyle Center. So the topic of this video is focusing on a healthy eating pattern, and today's objectives are to learn what is meant by healthy eating pattern, list 5 tips to make good decisions about fat in the diet, and then list 3 tips to reduce added sugar in the diet. There are so many so-called healthy diets out there that say to cut sugar, restrict fat, and so on. With an abundance of conflicting information regarding so-called healthy diets, it can be easy to become overwhelmed and confused. But no matter what the current fad diet is, it is always more important to stick to vegetables, fruits, whole grains, healthy fats, and lean protein foods. Rather than eating an exclusively no-fat or no-sugar diet, focus on your overall eating pattern. One meal does not make or break one's health. Rather, it's what people do consistently and long-term that has a significant impact on health. So, a healthy eating pattern really entails focusing on eating more fruits and vegetables, whole grains, beans, nuts, seeds, and legumes, and seafood and lean meats. And eating less processed meats, sweetened drinks, desserts, solid fats, and refined grains. So, when focusing on a healthy eating pattern, try to fill half of your plate with vegetables and fruits. Fill the remainder of your plate with whole grains and lean protein foods. Your meals may also include low-fat dairy products such as low-fat cheese and healthy fats such as an olive oil-based salad dressing or part of an avocado. Your meals don't always have to include each food group, but pairing at least 2 or 3 different foods will provide more nutrients and help you feel more satisfied. So, since it is common to see low or no fat and low or no sugar diets, we will focus on ways to make good decisions about fat and sugar rather than trying to cut these components out of your diet completely. So, we'll start with fat. It is recommended to consume more oils rich in monounsaturated and polyunsaturated fats and limit saturated and trans fats. So, unsaturated fats are heart healthy and include fats that are liquid at room temperature, like oils. And then saturated fats can cause plaque formation in the body, which may ultimately lead to cardiovascular disease. And saturated fats are those that are solid at room temperature, like butter. And then trans fats are in a lot of processed foods and are also linked to cardiovascular disease risk. So, having said all of this, it's important to choose the right kinds of fats, including those from fatty fish such as salmon, vegetable oils, and nuts and seeds. And the reason I want to particularly go over fats today is because many fad diets include complete restriction of fat because of the negative stigma associated with fat. However, as we just discussed, unsaturated fats are great components of a healthy diet and should not be cut out. So here are some great tips to help you make good decisions about fat in your diet. So tip number 1 is try grilled, steamed, or baked salmon, trout, or mackerel instead of fried or breaded fish. So here we are focusing more on the cooking method. Grilling, steaming, and baking includes using less fat, or at least less saturated fat, than frying fish. Vary your protein choices by eating more seafood and legumes, including soy foods, beans, and lentils. So, not a lot of people think of plant based foods when they think of protein sources, but beans, lentils, nuts, and peas are all great sources of protein to include in your diet every now and then. Tip 3 choose lean cuts of meat and remove visible fat. Remove skin and fat from poultry as well. So, white meat, including poultry, is typically considered more lean than red meats. And then also, when buying beef, try to choose 95% lean ground beef. Tip 4 choose low fat or fat free dairy products or calcium fortified plant based alternatives. So, dairy products offer great nutrients, but they can be high in saturated fat. So, choose dairy products that are lower in fat, such as skim milk or fat free yogurts. And then the last tip top salads with nuts or seeds instead of croutons. Use oil based salad dressings instead of cream based dressings. So, we can easily make a salad not so healthy with the toppings we decide to put on. Nuts and seeds are great sources of unsaturated fat, as we mentioned earlier, that make a great addition to a salad. And as we also mentioned earlier, oil-based dressings will have more unsaturated fat and less saturated fat, so they're always a better option than cream-based dressings. Okay, so the other thing many people completely restrict when trying a fad diet is sugar. So it is definitely recommended to limit added sugars as these contribute greatly to diabetes and obesity. The current recommendation for added sugars is less than 10% of total calories, and actually, the average American consumes more than 13% of their daily calories from added sugars. Added sugars can be found in foods such as sugar sweetened beverages and processed snacks and desserts and candy. It is important to note here, though, that naturally occurring sugars found in foods such as fruit and milk are not added sugars. And then here are a few tips to help you decrease your added sugar intake. So, tip one is to rethink sweets. This does not necessarily mean that you can't ever enjoy that homemade chocolate chip cookie or an occasional bowl of ice cream, but we should all be enjoying sugary desserts in moderation. Instead of a post dinner dessert, close out a family mealtime with a cup of decaf coffee or herbal tea without those added sweeteners. And then tip three, switch from sweetened yogurt with added fruit to plain low fat yogurt. Then add fresh fruit for a nutritious, naturally sweet mid morning snack. Fruit and low fat dairy contain natural sugars that provide nutrients that promote health. So, this also goes for other snacks that are sweetened. Maybe try to choose options without that extra sweetener in there. So, in conclusion, a healthy eating pattern is different than a fad diet. Fad diets typically focus on complete restriction of a certain food item. A healthy eating pattern focuses on whole foods, eating not so healthy foods in moderation, and consistency for long term effects. A healthy eating pattern typically follows the guidelines of My Plate, which recommends making half of your plate fruits and veggies, a quarter of your plate whole grains, and a quarter of your plate lean protein. With regards to fat, it is recommended to consume more unsaturated fats from vegetable oils, nuts, seeds, and fatty fish, and less saturated fat from butter, red and processed meats, and cream based dressings and dips. So, tips to increasing unsaturated and decreasing saturated fat intake include grilling your foods instead of frying them, trying plant based proteins every now and then, and choosing low fat dairy products. And then finally, Americans in general should be consuming less added sugars. So, tips to consuming less added sugars include rethinking sweets and maybe choosing a cup of tea rather than dessert after meals, and trying unsweetened versions of foods such as unsweetened yogurt. So here I have provided the reference where the information gathered in this presentation was obtained in case you want to learn more about a healthy eating pattern on your own. I want to thank you for taking time out of your day to watch this presentation. If you have any questions or want more information regarding a healthy eating pattern, please contact us. Our number is 765-285-1293 and our email is hlc765@gmail.com.